And welcome back to College Football Tradition here on Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify. We're on YouTube. My name is Brian Partiga. I'm joined by my bro host and co-host Jacob Vanderford. We are here to talk about QBU, who is the real quarterback university in college football. I know Jacob has some thoughts on this. We have some different criteria that we went over and covered for this. Jacob, I'm curious to know before we start, what were some of the criteria that you went over when you were evaluating what school is QBU? What schools are we even going to be talking about in that upper echelon of that position group?
Yeah, so I guess to preface for the past like several weeks, months, Brian and I have been trying to cook up some of these series episodes. Y'all know our regular listeners, you've listened to History of American College Football. Now we're trying to start up sort of the position U rankings. So where do we rank among like running back U, tight end U? We're going to go into the defense side of things too. We're going to go into wide receiver U, all those things. But we wanted to start out first with the captain of the football field, the one that sees all, knows all. That's the quarterback. So for QBU, I was really looking at, and I think there's a difference when you think about the position rankings for universities, whether that is how much they accomplished and contributed in their college career, and then also like what they did in the NFL when they got there. And when you think about what quarterbacks played where, that's the colleges are kind of where you're drawn to. So I definitely tried to put into perspective a little bit of both of those things, like what did they do in college? Did they win Heisman trophies? Did they rack up a bunch of stats? And then once they got drafted, were they busts or did they accomplish a lot when they got to the NFL as well? So I'll kind of go into some of the teams and schools that I was looking at, and then Brian, you can definitely jump in and contrast those beliefs if you like.
Yeah, I might battle you a little bit on some things. Yeah.
Please do. I also have some like weird dark horse picks that I feel like some of y'all will be like, "What the heck is he talking about? That's so strange." But hear me out. Okay, so first off, I gotta say Oklahoma. Oklahoma throughout the years has been one of the strong football franchises of all time. They've won several championships. They've been in the big games, and their quarterbacks have carried them there. I think most recently, a lot of people think about the Lincoln Riley days. Obviously, you had Baker Mayfield, who won a Heisman. You had Kyler Murray and Jalen Hurts, who did transfer from previous schools. Kyler Murray from Texas A&M, Jalen Hurts from Alabama. But all three of those players were in those Heisman conversations, and obviously a few of them didn't win. Then you think about Sam Bradford, you think about Josh Heupel, you think about Jason White. All those quarterbacks also did accomplish a ton within their time with Oklahoma. This obviously was back in the Big 12 days. Now Oklahoma transferring into the SEC days, so we'll see how they fare there. But I just think the overall body of work, the amount of draft picks that they had, obviously Bradford was drafted number one, Kyler Murray drafted number one, Mayfield drafted number one. You can't argue with those picks, and they've accomplished a lot so far in their time in the NFL. Obviously, Kyler Murray had that one year where the Cardinals were on fire. Like I think finished like with 11 wins or something on the season, 12
Yeah.
wins.
Hmm.
And so they accomplished a lot that year. Obviously, he's been sputtering a little bit. Kyler Murray is also one of those people that like I'm just mind boggled at his athleticism, the way that he could be picked top 10 in the MLB draft and also number one in the NFL draft. Like I don't know if that's ever been done before. So I got to give Kyler Murray his flowers. But yeah, again, overall, if you look back at the stats, if you look back at the draft picks and what they've done in the NFL and in college, I got to go with Oklahoma. So that is sort of my number one. Then I think about Alabama. Alabama over the years has obviously been like the top of the college football echelon. Like whenever you think of college football, Alabama is always the top of the list. you had your coaches of Bear Bryant, you had Nick Saban, and they were able to develop a lot of these really strong quarterbacks. I think the first name that comes to mind when you think of Alabama is Joe Namath, super strong quarterback that played for the Jets all those years, and won a ton of games. If you think about Bart Starr, you think about Greg McElroy, even though Greg McElroy isn't one of those like top names you think about. He did a ton for that college team and then played a little bit in the NFL as well. And then more recently, you think about Tua Tagovailoa, you think about Bryce Young, who Bryce Young isn't doing all too well with the Panthers right now, but I think he'll be able to turn some heads within this coming year. He played a lot better towards the end of the season last year, so confident in that. And then you even think about Mac Jones. I mean, he took that team to the playoff and all of those things, played with Devontae Smith. Obviously has been sputtering a little bit in the NFL, but definitely strong points there. So Alabama is my number two after Oklahoma.
Okay, so you're going, when I hear like your Oklahoma reasoning, it seems like a lot of guys who over the past 7 years, really, you mentioned
Uh,
Baker, you
yeah.
mentioned the guys that Lincoln Riley was coaching, like Jalen Hurts and Kyler, like so a lot of guys who are recent, and then with Alabama, you're going a little bit farther out. You're
Yeah.
seeing that kind of like that whole body of work. And the guys who have been there recently, like Alabama has had strong quarterback play throughout the majority of the college football playoff era, maybe with the exception of like early playoff era, late BCS era. So we were talking about like that. Man, who was their quarterback during the 2014 playoff? But after that, they kind of caught fire and had some guys who just were way more elite, I would say.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, Oklahoma too. I mean, if you look back years and years before, like in the 2000s, in the 1990s, like they had some really strong quarterbacks too. So I feel like there never was really a time where you're like, wow, Oklahoma's quarterback is like really struggling. They're probably a couple down years, but overall, I think Oklahoma has had great quarterbacks. I quickly want to throw out some sort of under the radar teams that have produced a lot of great talent. And you'll probably roll your eyes at this, but just hear me out on this. So, if you think about the Purdue Boilermakers, okay, they've had 14 draft picks at the quarterback position. They've had quarterbacks that have won 3 Super Bowls, some of which you think about Drew Brees, you think about Bob Greasy, you think about Len Dawson. A lot of people don't really remember Len Dawson in the NFL way back when,
Who
but
do you
they
play
all
for?
three. The I think it was the Chiefs.
Okay.
I think it was the Chiefs. I think I'm thinking about somebody else who played for the Vikings. Y'all can look it up. But Len Dawson, Lefty Len, they all three of those quarterbacks did win the Super Bowl. And they obviously it looks like they had the most passing yards thrown in NFL history combined. And it looks like it's 262,000. So
Well, you
um,
got Drew Brees there. It's kind of like,
that's true. He's
oh,
like
how
top of the
many
list.
Michigan quarterbacks have won a
I
Super
was,
Bowl? Like Tom
yeah.
Brady, then I don't know if there even is another one. So it's like it's kind of things like
Yeah,
I
it's
don't,
really
I
like
don't
you
want
think
to
about
not
Tom
give them
Brady,
credit though. I
Peyton
don't.
Manning, Drew Brees. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
that's definitely true. But then quickly, I also want to add Notre Dame. I
Good
think a lot
one.
of people don't think about Notre Dame as much in the quarterback race because as of late, they usually rely on like their running game and their sort of fierce defense secondary. But I want to point out like Joe Montana played at Notre Dame, Joe Theismann, John Huarte, so many other people. They had 23 draft picks at the position as well, and a lot of production both in the NFL and in college. So those are sort of my top five position ratings for quarterback U. Now I'm curious to see what you think about your picks.
Wow, I really like those picks. I mean, you kind of went big name, big amount of production over time, and
Yep.
then and Oklahoma also being in there as well. And I think that they do have production over time too. So I really like your list because I think it's a culmination of history within college football, which is so great.
Tradition,
And
baby.
that's what we do. It's college football tradition. So it's great. What I did, and we had this discussion a little bit earlier, was that I went back and I was like, okay, who is the oldest quarterback in the NFL right now? And it's Aaron Rodgers right now as we speak. He was drafted in 2005. So what I did, I was like, let's not look at anything pre 2005, just because who's quarterback you of today? I need to be talking about quarterbacks that have been drafted Aaron Rodgers on. And if
That's
you
fair.
look at the statistics, the schools that come out on top with the most quarterbacks drafted, number one is USC. They have had 8 guys drafted since 2005. You think of Sam
Wow.
Darnold, you think of Matt Leinart, think of Barkley. So they've obviously turned out production at the quarterback position, right? And obviously Caleb Williams as well.
Hmm.
Tied for second is Alabama and Ohio State. You got a lot of recency there. I mean,
Yeah.
just with both of those programs, and you get a lot of consistency with that. Like if you look at the last, I could go back just in my mind of Ohio State quarterbacks. I'm like, okay, Will Howard, he was drafted. Um, McCord, I know he transferred to Syracuse and was drafted. I'm not counting him, but I'm saying he
Yeah.
did go to the NFL. Who was before that? It was CJ Stroud, NFL. Justin Fields, NFL. Dwayne Haskins, NFL. Cardell Jones got drafted. JT Barrett didn't get drafted, but JT Barrett was a model of consistency for Ohio State.
Yeah.
He holds a
I feel like
bunch
he
of
was there
records.
forever.
He was there forever. He didn't get drafted. He did get a chance in the NFL, and he's still doing great things with football. So props to him. I mean, to go back there, they did have the Braxton Miller. He ended up playing in the NFL. You had, the Luke Fickle year was tough because you had not Braxton Miller in his full like form, and you had
Mhm.
Bozerman, yeah, who didn't play that well for Ohio State. But before that, you had Heisman winner Troy Smith. So you had just, consistency after consistency after consistency from Ohio State. And guys who started 2, 3 years in college. So, the guys that I'm talking about there. So Alabama's in that realm as well. A lot of teams had 6 guys drafted. That would be Georgia, LSU, and Oregon had 6 quarterbacks drafted. Then the guys with 5 is Florida State, Louisville, Notre Dame, like you said, Oklahoma, Stanford, Tennessee, and Texas A&M. So there were a lot of
Wow.
schools that were in that realm as well. But I looked at USC and I was like, since 2005, they've had so many guys drafted, but not a lot. I know they have Caleb Williams, who's still pretty new to the NFL, so I don't want to like judge him too quickly. But not a lot of guys who succeeded. And
Hmm.
that's kind of one of the debates that we're going to be having, I think, Jacob, with these QBU, wide receiver U, RBU debates is what matters? Does it matter Heisman trophies, All-Americans, and how high you get drafted? Or does it matter when it comes to NFL production? Because I think people would look at like DBU is a great example. LSU and Ohio State are always both in that conversation. If we're going off of how high guys get drafted and first round picks, it's Ohio State and it's not close. If you go off of NFL production, though, I could make the argument for LSU to have that. But LSU coaches aren't the ones who are coaching these DBs in the NFL. So it's all kind of like in that mindset. So I think for me, I'm looking at where did you get your guys positioned to go into the NFL draft? First round draft picks, second round draft picks, drafted overall. I look at that. And for that reason, since 2005, USC is my QBU. But I think that within time here, Alabama and Ohio State will surpass that, especially with the quarterback issues that go on at USC. Miller Moss just transferred to Louisville. Maybe it's Louisville that gets up there because they had 5 guys drafted, so maybe they
Lamar
keep
Jackson, baby.
Lamar Jackson, Tyler Shook. Yeah, so there's a lot of debate about this, I think.
Yeah, I think for me it's definitely about like production. Like you talk about the DBU debate, and it's very similar to like wide receiver U. And I don't want to like go into this too much because I know we're gonna have a whole episode on this. But you think about like LSU and Ohio State again. Those two teams are the teams that produce the top wide receivers. They get drafted really high, and typically they produce a lot in the NFL. So I think if you're just looking at it on paper, like you're like, okay, those are the top 2 schools that are competing for like wide receiver U. And we might have a debate about this later. But I always just think about that. Like, I think it's definitely for me partly about what do they do in the NFL, and how do they succeed at the next level? Like, what did they do in college, and how did that prepare them for the NFL? And
Mhm.
it's about like the amount of. I think it's also about the amount of people that a school is able to churn out and the amount of talent they're able to churn out to put into the NFL and put in those positions. That makes them definitely in position you conversation. So yeah, there's definitely like multiple ways of looking at it, and everybody has a different way of seeing things, different lens they look through. But for me, it's definitely about like production, body of work, both college and NFL, and then just sort of the amount of great players that are produced.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So it could be a combination of a lot of things. I'm sure there's a formula out there and you could just
Yeah.
plug all this info into a calculator and they'll be like, it's Louisville who is QBU or something like that. I don't know. Like they're trying to sell that, I guess.
Yeah.
But there are definitely different ways to look at it. Something of note too, North Dakota State has had four guys drafted, and they've all been in recency. We know Trey Lance, and we know Carson Wentz, Easton Stick, and I forget, I'm blanking on the fourth one who they've had drafted. But so as far as the FCS goes, I mean, they are just putting out talent all the way around. But even at the quarterback position, compared to a lot of Power Four programs. They surpass those. There are schools that haven't even put out a quarterback in the NFL draft. So it's honestly crazy that North Dakota State has been able to do that for the better part of the past 15 years.
Yeah, it's so interesting how like a lot of schools that are so under the radar or like schools that are in, like the Sun Belt or the MAC or schools like that that you don't really think about too much are often the players that succeed the most in the NFL too. So yeah, I don't know. There's just a lot of debates to be had about what schools produce the most, what talent is the best from each school. So yeah, definitely curious to see what other people think.
Yeah.
Drop your thoughts in the comments, please.
Yes, let us know. Tell us we're wrong. I mean,
Yeah, literally. Tear
I
us
know.
apart, rip us to shreds.
Rip us to shreds if you want to. I mean, and you got schools like, going back to like the college production, you got schools like Western Kentucky, which are just known for airing the ball out all the time. I think
Yeah.
they've had three guys drafted since 2005 at the
I
quarterback
remember
position.
who was that guy? Bailey Zappi, something like
Yes.
that. He played for the Patriots for a little bit, and
Yeah.
yeah, he was a great player in college, like, but didn't produce quite as much in the NFL. So yeah, I still think it's like who does the best in both areas. Like if you do well in college, but not in the NFL and you're a bust, I'm not inclined to say that you're part of QBU, you know?
It's certainly up for debate. It is. Anything else before we close out this mini segment of the U position rankings?
No, I think that was a good wrap up. I'm excited for the rest of the positions to get started.
Yeah, I am too. It's going to be great. Well, for Jacob Vanderford, I'm Brian Partika. We will continue on this series as the summer concludes and as we get into real college football season. We are so excited to preview those conferences with you. So stay up to date on our social medias, stay up to date on our podcast channels. Like us, comment on us, whatever. We really, really appreciate it. So we will see you next time.